Hello, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Analog Wavelength TV. I am your cruise director, Sean. Today, I'm gonna show you guys the 25 best used finds I had of the year for 2025. So, if you ever see me in a record store, you will never see me in the new pressings unless I'm looking for a newly released title. Otherwise, you will never find me looking for old reissues or new reissues or anything else. I'm going to be in the used bins looking for old gold, and 2025 I hit gold quite a few times. So this was actually the year of the 90s for me. 90s pressings are a bit of a tough story because, during the 90s was vinyl's absolute dark age. Starting around 1990 until 2007, vinyl was in such low production. The indie labels and punks really kept it alive. The major labels, they would press, say 10,000 of some of the biggest titles that they knew they could sell. And otherwise, stuff just wasn't getting pressed on vinyl. And, if you were lucky enough to find a record store that still sold vinyl in addition to the cassettes and CDs, it was just collecting dust in the bins. They couldn't give it away. And so because of that, a lot of these original pressings of popular 90s titles are really hard to find, and now a lot of them are fairly valuable on the used market. As a teenager, I was buying vinyl in the 90s, and I have a lot of titles that I'm really thankful that I paid $15.98 retail for back then. But I digress. So as luck would have it, I found a lot of really great 90s titles that I never remember seeing in those days. In the bins, and so better late than never to have them. So we can go ahead and get started. This album is an absolute thrash metal classic. This is Arise by Sepultura. This came out in 1992. One common theme you're going to see with a lot of these pressings is that they weren't pressed in the US, but they were pressed in Europe. And so such is the case with this one. This is a European pressing, and it looks and sounds fantastic. Sticking with the metal theme, this is a US pressing from 1991. Yeah, this is The Human Factor by Metal Church. This is one of my favorite Metal Church records. This is the first one that has Mike Howe on vocals, legendary metal vocalist. And this is probably one of their most, if not their most, polished and produced record. But man, is it great. Every single song here just kicks. So good. All right. This was a big one because it completed my Ramones studio album library. And fittingly, it was the last record in their discography from 1996. This is Adios Amigos. The band on this one was the band that existed pretty much all throughout the 90s. So it was Joey, Johnny, Marky, and CJ. And, fans and critics are pretty divided on the Ramones in the 90s. I've always liked those albums. I love Mondo Bizarro. I love Adios Amigos. I've always kind of felt like the Ramones never really put out an objectively bad album. When you have 14 studio records, some are going to be better than others, but I think every Ramones record is at least good, if not great. All right, moving on to a little bit of hip-hop. This is from 1988, a hip-hop classic, a West Coast gangster rap classic. This is Easy Does It by Eazy-E. It's an original U.S. copy, Priority and Ruthless. I can't say anything about this album that hasn't already been said 100 times. No rap and hip-hop library is complete without a copy of this. And speaking of another one from that same time period that no hip hop library is complete without, is an original copy of NWA Straight Outta Compton. Again, Eazy-E's on this, as well as Dr. Dre and Yella and Ice Cube and others. So this is another one that, I mean, if you've never heard this, I mean, this hip hop as we know it today sounds much, much different if Straight Outta Compton had never come out. So very good. And then some original 90s hip-hop. This was a big one, and one I was very excited about. I remember seeing this in the bins in the 90s, and for whatever reason, just never pulled the trigger on a copy. But this is The Score by the Fugees. So this has all of the hits of theirs, Ready or Not and Killing Me Softly. But the thing that struck me about this is just how good this original pressing sounds. Whoever mastered this did an unbelievable job. But you could really say that for a lot of Sony Music vinyl from the 90s. Columbia, Epic labels, associated labels. Their vinyl just maintained an unbelievable level of quality, considering how little of it they were producing. So that was nice. This was one that I never thought I would find. This is a European copy that was never pressed in the U.S. Again, you're going to notice that as a pattern. But 1982, Donald Fagen released his album The Nightfly, which is a classic and loved the world over. And then it would be another 11 years until he released another studio album. And that would be this. So this is Kamakiri'd. So this came out in 93, and in some ways this was a bit of a Steely Dan reunion, because Walter Becker plays guitar on a fair number of these tracks, so that was kind of cool. But I think this album's every bit as good as The Nightfly. It might not be better, but I think it's certainly as good. This was a cool one that I wasn't expecting to find. So this is Mirror Ball by Neil Young, and this has a bunch of great tunes on this. I really like Neil's lyrics on this album, and of course the defining attribute of this record is the fact that Pearl Jam was his backing band for the entire thing. So that's pretty cool. This is a cool little 90s nugget to have. This is one that I had been looking for the right copy of for years. I never see these, and this one, I'm glad that my patience paid off, because this thing looks and sounds like the day it came home from the record store. This is Bob Dylan's Time Out of Mind from 1997, original U.S. copy, and this began kind of a late career resurgence for him between the late 90s and around the mid 2000s. Albums like this and Love and Theft and Modern Times, but the thing that I love about Time Out of Mind is that it was produced by Daniel Lanois, who also produced his album Oh Mercy, which I think is one of Dylan's all-time great albums. That's, some days I might tell you that's my favorite Bob Dylan record. But Lanois understood Bob Dylan, I think, in a way that no other producer he ever worked with did. The styles that he got Bob to do, and the way that he got Bob to sing, and just, I don't know, Bob Dylan did material with Daniel Lanois that sounds like nothing else he ever did, and I say that in the best possible way. So it's a shame that the two of them only worked together on those two albums, but I am so happy to have this. This is one of my favorite Bob Dylan records. So, good stuff. All right, this was another one I was not expecting to find, and this one's kind of funny. So, this is a U.S. copy, original Rage Against the Machine, Evil Empire, and you can see the kind of circular burn pattern on the cover, and if you didn't know that that wasn't supposed to be there, you would probably think it was just part of the cover, but it's not. So, when I bought this, it was factory sealed, and on top of the jacket, but underneath the shrink wrap, was this slip mat for your turntable. And having that slip mat sitting here on the jacket for 30 years caused this pattern to kind of burn into the cover. and unfortunately it burned into the vinyl a little bit too, but you can only hear a very slight shh in between tracks. Otherwise, the music completely overpowers anything that might have made it onto the vinyl, and so this is still a great copy. And like I said, I kind of think that burn pattern on the cover actually looks kind of cool. So yeah, just one of those kind of little anomalies, I guess. All right, here's a punk classic. So this is actually a double album, which is kind of interesting in punk. But this is Double Nickels on the Dime by the Minutemen. This came out on SST Records in 1984. And they mixed punk with so many different styles and just tried so many different things on this record. It's an artistic statement while also being punk as hell. If you've never heard this record, if you're just kind of a casual fan of punk, you know, if somebody came to me and said, I've never heard punk before, play me some punk, this is one of the records I play for them. This album is so good. All right, this was a nice find. So a couple of months ago, a record store about 3 hours away from me, they were having an anniversary sale, and they had an original 1990 US pressing of this, and I drove down there in the hopes that I might get it, and unfortunately a guy that was a couple places ahead of me in line ended up grabbing it, and a friend of mine took pity on me and got me this as a Christmas gift. But this is an original Black Crowes Shake Your Money Maker. This is a US copy. The earliest copies like this one did not mention Rick Rubin as an executive producer. This is one of those copies, and that was true for the cassettes and CDs as well. There are cassette and CD copies that don't mention him as executive producer. But this thing's got a bit of a little bit of condition issues on the cover, just with all the creasing and stuff. But the vinyl sounds fantastic, and this is just great dancey, fun, bluesy rock that, I mean, it'll make you shake your moneymaker, right? It's a great name for this album. But, this has just almost every hit, not every hit, but almost every hit the Black Crowes were known for. Twice as Hard, Jealous Again, She Talks to Angels, Hard to Handle, their cover of the Otis Redding classic. So, this album is essential rock and roll. All right, this was another big one. So this one isn't technically original, but it's a very early pressing. So this is Loveless by My Bloody Valentine, and this is another one that was not pressed in the U.S. on vinyl originally. So this is a European copy, and so it came out in 91. This pressing is from right around 92. It's made with the original stampers, the one, the metalwork that was used to make the originals, but it's probably a second pressing, a very early repress. So anyway, sounds fantastic. And this is very early shoegaze. Shoegaze, as we know, it sounds very, very different without this album. And so if that stuff is your speed, you probably already know My Bloody Valentine, but if you've never heard them, and especially this album, check them out. All right. From 1993, I'm sorry, hello. There's, again, European copy for the same reason. This is an original Radiohead Pablo Honey. So this is the one that has Creep on it, which Tom York now hates. But it's funny, you can always tell what generation someone is by what their favorite Radiohead album is. And this is not my favorite Radiohead album. It's good. Not my favorite. My favorite is my favorite is probably Amnesiac. But that middle period of Radiohead, OK Computer, Kid A, Amnesiac, Hail to the Thief, that's my sweet spot for Radiohead. But I do love the 90s stuff, and Pablo Honey is a great record, even if it's not my favorite. Okay. 60s, garage rock, and psychedelia. If you ever want to get into that stuff, this is the first record you go for. This is Nuggets. And Nuggets is legendary. This came out in 1972 on Elektra Records. And this has so much great psychedelia and garage rock. It is the ultimate way to get introduced to that genre of music. There is, I mean, the track selection could not be more perfect, and it's a double LP, so it's 4 sides, and it's got everything from the Electric Prunes to the Strange Loves to the Vagrants, the Blues Project, the Seeds, the 13th Floor Elevators, the Castaways, God. You know, the Leaves, the Crying Shames, the Amboy Dukes, which was a very early band that Ted Nugent was in. Just a quick disclaimer. I couldn't care less what Ted Nugent thinks about world events, but I'll listen to that man play guitar any day of the week. I'll never listen to Ted, but I'll listen to Ted's guitar every day of the week. Who else is on this? The Chocolate Watch Band, Sagittarius, Nas. Oh. Anyway, like I said, if you ever want to get into 60s psychedelia and garage rock, this is the first record you want to find, is Nuggets. And the thing is, so that came out in 72, and then in the 80s, Rhino Records sort of turned Nuggets into almost like a brand, like it was like a multi-part series. And they released, I want to say they released like 11 or 12 single LP volumes of Nuggets. And they're good, but I almost think they dig too deep. The original 2 LP collection is the perfect sweet spot. You know, it's not too little and it's not too much. This is just perfect. Perfect. All right, next up, this is going to be one of the sexiest albums of the 1990s, especially in pop. This is the album Janet by Janet Jackson, 1993. This is an original UK copy. And oh my goodness. So many of these songs are just full of, you know, tantalizing imagery that still leaves plenty to the imagination. You know, songs like That's the Way Love Goes and You Want This and If, Throb. Oh my God. So much good material on this. In many ways, I think this was peak Janet. Yeah, I mean, if you are only going to own, you know, say 1 or 2 Janet Jackson records, this one and Rhythm Nation, those are the 2 you need. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about this album. If it were possible to have worn out CDs back in the 90s, teenage me would have worn out probably 3 copies of this. Oh, I played the hell out of this back in the day. All right. This was a very cool release from Bruce Springsteen in the 90s. You know, in the early 90s, he broke up the E Street Band and decided to go out on his own and kind of do things that were, you know, he released 2 albums on the same day in 1992, Human Touch and Lucky Town, that were kind of full of happier kind of tunes. And it was met with mixed reviews from fans and critics. I like those records, but a lot of fans just weren't ready for it, I guess. But then after that, he decides to go back a little bit and almost do Nebraska Part 2. This is another very dark acoustic album that will just make you say, wow, this is The Ghost of Tom Joad. This came out in 1995, original US copy. And it's awesome. You know, is it as good as Nebraska? Well, I mean, maybe not, but that could just be nostalgia talking. This album is fantastic. It's really good. Like I said, you know, very dark, pretty much all acoustic, and yeah, killer. All right, this one's a personal favorite. My Name is Mud, man. Here you go. Here's Pork Soda by Primus, 1993 original. This copy is solidly VG, both the cover and the vinyl. The vinyl plays fine, but you know, it doesn't look the best, and you know, this has some condition issues on the jacket and stuff. But this is what I like to call a damn solid play copy, And so, yeah, if I ever find a super nice one, I may upgrade this, but this thing will serve its purpose and serve it well in this house. So this is probably Primus's most popular album. Might not be their best, but it's definitely their most popular. Again, due to the aforementioned My Name is Mud. All right. When it comes to trip hop, Portishead rather, is royalty. So they only ever put out 3 records. This is their second one. This is self-titled from 1997. If you like down-tempo and trip hop, you are required to have at least one Portishead album. If you're going to only have one Portishead album, Dummy's probably the one you want. But if you're interested in checking it out, this is the next one you want after that. All right. This was one where I kind of took a gamble. There's a record store about an hour and a half from me that got in a whole bunch of original Pearl Jam albums that from the 90s and early 2000s that were still sealed. And one of them was a copy of Riot Act that I also grabbed but didn't make this list. But this one sat on their shelf for about 2 months, Lost Dogs. And they wanted a pretty good chunk of change for it, and they wouldn't work with me on the price in the beginning. But after I let it sit on the shelf for about 2 months, I found myself back in that shop. And that time they were willing to work with me a little bit. So I ended up grabbing this. Lost Dogs, if you don't know what this is a compilation of all kinds of like B-sides and one-offs and things like that. And there is just a ton of great material here. So I was really happy to have this. I don't know if I ever saw this in the bins in the early 2000s. I feel like I would have bought it if I did, but maybe not. I mean, I bought Rearview Mirror, which was like their greatest hits compilation that came out the year after this. I bought that in the early 2000s when it came out. But yeah, I don't know if I ever saw this or not. But anyway, I'm glad to have it now. Like I said, this was factory sealed. This thing is in absolutely stunning condition. So yeah, super happy to have this. All right, this was another one. This is a recent arrival. So this now completes my Smashing Pumpkins studio album library, at least up through 2000, which is really all I care about after the original band kind of went on hiatus / broke up. But this is Adore from 1998. This is an original pressing, U.S. copy, and there are a few different versions of this, but this has a blank side 4 with no grooves on it, so the album itself is only 3 sides, and this one has a black label on the blank side. And there are other 90s pressings that have a white label on that blank side and some that have a red label on that blank side, and the consensus is that the black one is the one that was available on release day. So that's the one I've got here. And this is actually surprisingly a really nice package. You know, it doesn't have any like custom inner sleeves or inserts or anything, but it's in like a real nice kind of thick cardboard tip-on jacket, and you know, got nice artwork in the gatefold and everything. So Adore was a little bit different than, you know, especially following up an album like Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. Adore was definitely a little bit different. But it's a great album. I love this record. And also the funny thing about this one is that they released it in mono. It's not in stereo. So, yeah. All right. Found this somewhat recently, too. This is one of the absolute biggest albums in the 90s. It's a Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette. This is an English UK pressing. Again, not pressed here. Pattern. Every Alanis Morissette hit that you want to name is on this. You know, You Ought to Know, Hand in My Pocket, Head Over Feet. The only ones of her hits that's not on this would probably be Uninvited and Thank You. But yeah, this album, I mean, it sold so many copies. Every kid I knew in the 90s had a copy of this, myself included. And so, yeah, this is one of the biggest, certainly one of the biggest albums in 1995, but undoubtedly one of the biggest albums of the decade. All right, no sophomore slump here, people. So here's a, Again, not pressed in the US. Here's a UK original of version 2.0 by Garbage. This one's in immaculate condition. This one has Push It. And were there any other hits on this? Yeah, I don't. Oh, and I Think I'm Paranoid. So those were the two big songs here. But version 2.0 is a great album, front to back. Garbage is another one I don't think has ever put out an objectively bad record. Some were better than others, but if it's got Garbage's name on it, it's going to be quality. This was a big one too, from 1994. Here's an original copy, U.S. copy of Smash by The Offspring. So this is the one that has Come Out and Play and Self-Esteem. Those were the two big hits here. This is the album that ended up landing them a major label deal with Ixnay on the Ombre and Americana. And some people will tell you this is the Offspring's best record. I don't know. I could probably be convinced. It's killer, top to bottom. Either way you want to slice it. All right, last one. This was probably my heaviest hitter of the year. This was the last album that Alice in Chains released before Lane Staley died in 2002. And from 1995, this is their self-titled album. The three-legged dog on the cover has had some people refer to it as Tripod. That's the affectionate name for this album. But this has Grind and Heaven Beside You on it. Every single Alice in Chains record, even the ones that they put out after Lane Staley died, the three that they've done since, every single Alice in Chains record is at least an 8 out of 10. In a lot of ways, Alice in Chains, for a guy in his mid-40s like me, these guys were, you could make an argument that they were the Led Zeppelin of our generation. And the big thing that always made Alice in Chains stand out, especially from every other grunge band of the time, was their affinity for vocal harmony. Their vocal harmonies are so great to listen to. I mean, some of those songs you could just get lost in it. And, never mind their knack for just great songwriting, good melodies and, good solos and great vocals. I mean, Alice in Chains was the whole package. So I'm really happy to have that. There's still a few Alice in Chains originals I need, and I'll get there. But I'm doing pretty well on that stuff so far. And that's what I got for you guys. So that's my 25 best finds of the year. If I could probably expand this out to a top 40 and throw in some other great stuff too. But 25 is good enough considering we're in 2025. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.